all I can say is give you a general feel of where I stand.
Okay.
And of course, when people listen to me, they get shocked because
Okay.
nobody has heard any of what I have to say, ever. And so it's like, Galileo coming up with a new theory, and the priest saying, "What are you talking about, Galileo?" That
Oh
sort of
yes.
thing. The issue is as follows. Okay, this is as I understand physics, as I understand science. Okay, first of all, mathematics has nothing to do with physics. Mathematics has nothing to do with science. Math is not the language of physics or of science. We don't use mathematics at all. Okay, that's the first one. And I know you'll beat me up. Give me a chance here. Okay, I say mathematics has nothing to do with physics. Second, we don't do experiments in science. We don't do experiments in science. We don't do experiments in physics. Okay, why? Why both? Math can only describe. And I'm saying that science is about explaining. Here we are 10,000 years later. No one on planet Earth, other than us, because we do have a physical interpretation, no one on Earth, other than the rope model, has a physical interpretation for why this falls downwards always, right? And I'm saying there's only one way to figure that out, and that is you have to identify the invisible, intangible, that is, invisible, intangible objects that are pulling on this downwards towards the earth. Okay. Now, Chris mentioned that there's something pushing. And I got a problem with push because, we push from every side. But the question is, if the particles are pushing from outside to this thing, then where are those particles coming from? Are they coming from Mercury, from Mars, from Venus? Are those particles coming out of Venus? Does gravity work in reverse over there? Are they being pushed out? Because if the particles are pushing here from above, from the sky or from wherever, they're coming from somewhere, and that something is losing particles. They're sending them to us. So I have a problem with the push gravity, any kind of push gravity, shadow, the sage mechanisms. That's one issue. So we're not going to detect that through an experiment, and we're not going to be able to explain it with math. Math can only describe. Math is a descriptive language. It can only describe. It cannot tell us what exists, or not only what exists, out there, but how it works. Okay, it can tell you what the visible stuff works. Like, you can tell me something about this because you can see it and touch it. You can measure its speed, how high it came, from what height it fell, all that kind of stuff. You can measure and come up with equations and descriptions for how the rubber band came down. The only issue is, you haven't told me what it is, what physical object is pushing, pulling, or whatever on this, right? That's the issue. And I'm saying that for 10,000 years, we never figured out the only thing that we had to figure out. And that is that when this falls, okay, there is a pull force. That's what most people will say is gravity. I agree with that part. I'm saying it's a pull force. And there's something that is invisible and intangible that is connected to every atom of this rubber band, to every atom on Earth. So when this falls, it's because every single atom of this rubber band is connected to every single atom on Earth with something that is invisible and intangible. We cannot see or touch this thing. It's a thing. Why is it a thing? Is it because we can see or touch it? No, it's a thing because it has shape, but no object, not all objects can be seen or touched. And that's where the problem is. I think that was the secret we had to discover of Mother Nature, that there are things that cannot be seen or touched, and we cannot see a table on the other side of the universe. Does that mean a table, the word table, doesn't represent a physical object? Hopefully a table here or there is a physical object everywhere, but it's not something you can see or touch. I cannot see the air. It's made out of atoms. Hopefully it's a physical object. Anything made out of atoms should be a physical object. The fact that we have a chair or a table that is solid and the air, which is not solid, water, which is not solid, does not mean that water and air are not physical objects. Of course they are. And they are physical objects because they're finite. There's you get a bunch of air or you get a bunch of water, you put it in a balloon, you take it out into space, you pop the balloon, there's a blob that comes out. That blob has shape, right? That blob has shape. There's a finite point for the whole blob. And so that blob has shape. Now, does it change shape from moment to moment? Yeah. We're not talking about changing shape. We're saying, does it have shape? And the answer is yes. It has to be a yes. On the other hand, there are concepts, and concepts don't have shape. Love does not have shape. Intelligence doesn't have shape. Energy doesn't have shape because we don't know what energy is. Mass doesn't have shape. These are mathematical concepts. So we cannot use mathematical concepts in lieu of physical objects, meaning that, which is the first criterion we have for irrationality. If you move a concept, you have an irrational theory. Okay, we can only move objects, and physics first and foremost requires an object, and no textbook on earth of physics ever defined what an object is. Begins by defining what an object is, and that's where we failed. If you don't define what an object is, nobody knows what an object is and thinks that an object is that which you can see or touch. Of course, when this comes down, then people say, well, I can't see or touch anything here, so there's nothing there. No, it's not that there's nothing there. It's that you cannot see or touch that something. That was the key issue. And so what we're saying is that all atoms in the universe are physically interconnected. They're connected by a DNA-like rope. In fact, we're saying that DNA got its idea from the rope model of light. In other words, that's why we have DNA also in this format. And this explains just about everything. Explains first the speed of light, why it's a constant speed. It cannot be otherwise. Little c, 300,000 kilometers per second, is equal to frequency times wavelength, meaning that if you raise the frequency, you must lower the wavelength, and vice versa. And under the rope model, it's very simple. You torque the rope, you have more links, and each link is shorter. If you untorque the rope, the links get longer, and you have fewer links. Frequency times wavelength. That's why the speed of light is a constant. That's the first issue. The second issue is that if we were to unravel every rope and every atom in the universe that is made of the same thread, we would end up with this. We would end up with a rubber band, a very thin, extremely unimaginably long, closed loop thread, meaning like a rubber band. And we're saying that that's what matter is. It's the single thread that little by little formed all the, not because there was a process. I'm just saying that that's what we have out there. We have all atoms interconnected, and the atoms are made of the same thread as the rope that interconnects them. And it's a single piece if we were to look at all the atoms in the universe. So our model is a totally different than what Chris explained. Nothing in common. We don't think there are discrete particles. There's no such thing as a ball. All atoms are physically interconnected. That means from this ball, we have all these gazillions, and I mean gazillions, gatrillions, gazillions of ropes sticking out of here. And those gazillions of ropes make up the atom, which is connected to another atom. If I can find the other ball here. We have one ball connected to the other ball, and there's a rope-like mechanism or entity like this interconnecting them. That's essentially our model. That's our basic model. So it's a totally different model than what people have heard out there. And all I can do is tell you what the theory is and how to explain light, gravity, especially electricity, magnetism, and the atom, how it's built and how it works. The quantum jump, for example, and that sort of thing. So we are able to explain all these processes with this model, but it's totally different what you find out there. We're saying that quantum mechanics, general relativity, string theory are not part of science. They are irrational theories because they move concepts, they move mass, they work with field. Field is a bunch of numbers, a value at each point in space. They move vectors, numbers again. They all particles in the standard model, they're all numbers. There's not a single one that is a ball. They treat it as a ball in all their physical interpretations, but when you put them against the wall, they say it's not a ball. And so what is it? Well, it's a wave. It's everywhere. It's here. It's there. It can be at two places at once. It can go faster than light. So they have all these contradictions out there. And I'm saying that all that is irrational as a physical interpretation. Okay. So we cannot use that in physics. And there you see, okay, there you have the model. Essentially, you have the wave, the transverse wave that was created by people like Fresnel and Maxwell and so on. And the problem there is that what is a wave? You see all those arrows there, and those arrows are vectors. That's what you're staring at. So you're staring at numbers. They're magnitudes, right? And then you have all these vectors, and they form two fields. What are fields? Well, fields, there you have the definition of field, of value at each point in space. Field is just a bunch of numbers. So all you're staring at something that they represented pictorially with arrows. What you're really staring at is a mathematical concept, and you cannot move concepts in physics. Hopefully the universe doesn't work with a movement of concepts invented by us. And what we are saying is that what Father Universe, Mother Nature out there, what God, the devil, all of them out there, what they have is really a rope that we cannot see or touch, again, smell or hear, right? You cannot detect this through the senses. You can only use the common sense, the visualization, and say, look, could it be that all atoms are physically interconnected? And if they are, that's a good model that you see there, because you can see, first of all, it matches pretty well the electromagnetic wave that they've been mathematizing all these years. That's the first one. Second, it does have this wavy structure. And instead of a one-way, as you can see on the right-hand side there, instead of a one-way travel of all these vectors, which are just numbers, we have a torsion, an in situ torsion of the rope, and it's a torsion. That torsion is what we call light. In other words, propagation along, you can say propagation of a signal of a disturbance along the rope from atom to atom. And now we have, again, a physical model, because the atoms at the end are also made out of that same thread. So the whole universe is interconnected. That's our bottom line. It's all interconnected. And now, because they are interconnected, we can explain gravity. And I have a couple of videos there, quick videos that I could put on just to show you, illustrate for you how gravity works. You know, so a picture is worth 1,000 words. A movie is worth 1,000,000 words. So here you have a spoon falling to the ground. Why does it fall to the ground? Well, it falls to the ground because every atom that makes it, you got to redo it. Every atom that comprises the spoon is connected to every atom on Earth. So what happens? As the spoon gets closer to the center of the ground, the ropes fan out. You have more and more ropes intervening in this action. That's why you have the acceleration of gravity. And at the extreme distance, like, infinity, all the ropes come together and form a single coaxial. That's why gravity is weak. Gravity is strong the closer two objects are together, consistent with Newton's equation. So this is the mass divided by distance square illustration of that. What was missing is the ropes. People could not see and touch them, and so they said there's nothing there. And we're saying, yes, there is something there that you cannot see or touch. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's the model. I have another one for an astronaut, but essentially is the same thing that you saw there. An astronaut falling to Earth. But the same thing. What we're saying is the ropes fan out. As the object gets closer to another, mass closer to mass, distance square is reduced. What you have is the fanning out of the ropes that interconnect every atom.
Okay.
So it's not a push mechanism, it's a pull mechanism. Okay.
They're pulling each other. Okay. So is that it, Dr. Bill Gaede? You have some more, or?
I don't know. I mean, I could go on forever. You asked the wrong guy, because here's two magnets. Okay, I always show those fridge magnets, and you can see that they stick together. And the question is, how do we explain this magic? And what I'm saying is, hopefully here there's something that we cannot see or touch. They call it a field. And but a field is not a physical object. What was a field? A value at each point in space. That's a mathematical concept that says if I measure here in this region, I'm going to get a value, a different strength. Okay, that's a field, but that doesn't tell me what physical object is bringing these two things together. And hopefully, this is not a push mechanism. Okay, hopefully this is not a push when you have it here, you can see it's already pulling from the inside. Okay, and the force is on the inside. It's not on the outside. It's not, my hands are not being pushed from the outside. I can feel it pull from the inside. Okay, that's what I want to show there. And so the question is, how does this work? Well, the threads, very simple. You know, what you have is gazillions of threads. When they're going in the same direction, in opposite directions, one clockwise, the other one counterclockwise, right? If you got this situation, they push each other away. They spin around at great speeds, and they're hitting against each other like paddles of a riverboat, you know, going in opposite directions. And so they hit each other and push each other away. And if they're going in the same direction, when these threads, gazillions of threads come down and gazillions of threads come up, you have the attraction mechanism. Okay, now you have attraction. So repulsion and attraction. And that measures perfectly the lines of force that Michael Faraday discovered in the 1830s perfectly well. You know, you get a magnet, and what you get is these curves. And what those curves are, those lines of force, are really sweeping of threads through the iron filings, going through the center of the magnet and coming back out. Can we see or touch them? No. We cannot run an experiment. We cannot go to the field or the lab and say, I'm going to run an experiment to detect. No, this is something you cannot see or touch. Therefore, no experiment is going to elucidate what is in that world we call field. You can only visualize it, imagine it, and explain using that model. That's all you can do. And again, we have the same situation for electricity. We have the same thing for the atom, gravity, etc. The whole works. Light.